Bodhisattva Maitreya then said, Bhagavan, sentient beings stained by a root transgression forfeit their roots of virtue and are bound for the lower realms. They are in a state of transgression and will be deprived of any happiness of the God and human realms. Yet this son of noble family brings about these beings' fulfillment with the bliss of the higher realms and liberation. What are these particular transgressions? The Bhagavan answered, Son of noble family, there are 5 root transgressions for a Kshatriya on whom royal authority has been bestowed. By committing any of these root transgressions, a Kshatriya on whom royal authority has been bestowed will forfeit all previously generated roots of virtue and will be in a state of transgression. Such a Kshatriya will be deprived of all the happiness of the God and human realms and will go to the lower realms. What are these 5 transgressions? Son of noble family, for a Kshatriya on whom royal authority has been bestowed, stealing from a place of worship, stealing that which has been offered to the local Sangha or the Sangha of the 4 directions, or inciting someone to steal it. These constitute the first root transgression. Forcing someone to give up the Dharma, whether it is the instructions on the Sravaka's definite deliverance, the instructions on the Pratyeka Buddha's definite deliverance, or the instructions on the Mahayana definite deliverance, as well as creating obstacles to the teachings or concealing them. All of these constitute the second root transgression. Taking by force the saffron robes of those who have shaved their heads and beards for my sake, and don the saffron robes, whether they uphold the precepts or not, whether they observe the discipline or not, thus making them householders, inflicting corporal punishment on them, imprisoning or killing them, all of these constitute the third root transgression. Furthermore, a Kshatriya commits the 4th root transgression with any one of these 5 heinous deeds: purposely killing one's own mother, father, or a Sravaka, Arhat of the Bhagavan, dividing the Sangha, or purposely and out of negative intention causing a Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, to bleed. Furthermore, if a Kshatriya advocates the philosophy of non-existence of causality, denies the existence of future lives, embraces the 10 paths of unwholesome action and engages in them, and also influences many other people to follow the 10 paths of unwholesome action, manipulates them and encourages them and brings them to do so, these actions constitute the 5th root transgression. Son of noble family, if a Kshatriya on whom royal authority has been bestowed commits any of these 5 root transgressions, this Kshatriya will forfeit all previously generated roots of virtue. He will be in a state of transgression. Such a Kshatriya will be deprived of any happiness of the God and human realms, and will be bound for the lower realms. When that happens, the Bodhisattva Akasagarbha will manifest his birth and appear in an uncivilized land or another place, manifesting for some in the form, attire, and conduct of a monastic, for others in the form, attire, and conduct of a Brahmin. However and wherever he manifests, he will explain the Dharma to such Kshatriyas. He will explain and teach the hitherto unheard of, the unprecedented, the instructions of the Omniscient One, the deep and profound sutras, the dharanis, tolerance, and the grounds. And for this reason, the Kshatriyas on whom royal authority has been bestowed will be caused to develop shame about their previous negative and unwholesome actions. They will reprimand themselves and disclose, give up, and abandon negative actions. They will develop great enthusiasm for giving, discipline, taking precepts, and determination, and they will reach the higher realms. Maitreya, the transgressions of a minister are also 5 in number. What are these 5? Stealing from a place of worship or from the Sangha of the 4 directions is considered the first root transgression of a minister. Destroying a village, a district, or a town constitutes the second root transgression. Furthermore, for a minister, forcing somebody to give up the Dharma, whether this entails the instructions on the Sravaka's definite deliverance, the instructions on the Pratyeka Buddha's definite deliverance, or the instructions on the definite deliverance of the Omniscient One, as well as creating obstacles for the teachings or concealing them, these constitute the third root transgression. Furthermore, for a minister, harming those who have taken ordination with the Bhagavan, whether they uphold the precepts or not, whether they observe the discipline or not, taking by force their saffron robes and making them householders, resorting to corporal punishment, imprisoning them, or taking their lives. These all constitute the fourth root transgression. Finally, for a minister to commit one or more of the 5 heinous deeds constitutes the fifth root transgression. Son of noble family. If a minister commits any of the 5 root transgressions, he will forfeit all previously generated roots of virtue and will be in a state of transgression. Such a minister will be deprived of any happiness of the God and human realms, and will descend to the hell realms. Then, for the sake of such a person, the Bodhisattva Akasagarbha will be born, live, and teach in the land of the uncivilized or another place. For some beings he will manifest in the form, attire, and conduct of a monk, for others in various other forms and attires, including that of a girl, and he will teach the Dharma. Irrespective of where and in which guise he has manifested, he will explain the Dharma to those ministers. He will explain and teach the hitherto unheard of, the unprecedented, the instructions of the Omniscient One, the deep and profound sutras, the dharanis, tolerance, and the grounds. Then those ministers will be made to develop shame about their previous unwholesome negative actions. They will reprimand themselves and disclose, give up, and relinquish negative actions. They will eagerly practice giving, discipline, and having determination for the vows, and they will reach the higher realms. Son of noble family, there are 5 root transgressions for Sravakas. Which are the 5? They are killing, taking what was not given, impure conduct, lying, and physically harming or drawing blood from the body of a Tathagata. These are the 5. According to how it has always been explained, when my Sravakas commit any of these root transgressions, the Bodhisattva Akasagarbha will manifest birth in different places for the benefit of those beings. To some he teaches in the form of a monastic with the appropriate attire and conduct, and so forth, including all forms previously mentioned, and those beings will reach the higher realms. There are 8 root transgressions for sons of a noble family who are beginners and who have correctly embarked on the Mahayana path. These root transgressions cause confusion, and beginners who have correctly entered the Mahayana will forfeit the entirety of their previously generated roots of virtue, and they will be in a state of transgression. They will be deprived of the happiness of gods, of humans, and of the Mahayana, go to the lower realms, be separated from a spiritual friend, and remain in samsara for a very long time. What are the 8? There are beings who were born in this worldly realm of afflictions and 5 impurities because they conducted themselves in evil ways in the past. They rely upon a spiritual friend and listen to the most profound Mahayana owing to the tiny root of virtue they possess. Though they do so with little understanding, those sons of noble family give birth to the aspiration to unsurpassable, perfectly complete enlightenment. Some beginner bodhisattvas among them listen to the collection of sutras that present the most profound emptiness, transmit and read them. In the presence of other sentient beings who understand as little as those just mentioned, they recall these sutras in great detail in word and meaning, just as they heard and understood them, and teach them to others. When these ordinary immature beings, who have not gone through arduous training, hear such profound sutras, they become extremely frightened and terrified. Because they are terrified, they turn back from attaining unsurpassable, perfectly complete enlightenment, and aspire to the vehicle of the Sravakas. This is the first root transgression for a beginner bodhisattva. Son of noble family, due to this root transgression, they will forfeit the entirety of their previously generated roots of virtue. They will be in a state of transgression and be deprived of the happiness of the higher realms and of liberation. They will betray their bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, and go to the lower realms. It is like this, just, for instance, as one travels the great ocean in stages. Similarly, bodhisattvas must initially know other sentient beings, their inclinations and latent tendencies. In accordance with the other beginner bodhisattvas' predispositions, they must teach the Dharma step by step. The Bodhisattva Akasagarbha manifests his birth and appears in different places for their benefit. Therefore, if beginner bodhisattvas who have incurred such a root transgression and are terrified by the lower realms hear the name of the Bodhisattva Akasagarbha and wish to see him in order to disclose those transgressions, they should burn aloes wood and Chinese or other incense, join their palms, and utter the name of the Bodhisattva Akasagarbha at the break of dawn. Having seen such sentient beings, this son of noble family will manifest in a form corresponding to their respective fortunes. Thus, in the presence of some, he will manifest in an ordinary form and teach the Dharma. In the presence of others, he will teach in the form of a Brahmin, and in the presence of yet others. He may manifest in any other form, including the form of a girl, and cause the beginner bodhisattvas to disclose their root transgressions just as they occurred. He also teaches them expertise in skillful means, the profound conduct of unsurpassable Mahayana. He establishes them in meditative concentration, tolerance, the dharanis, and the grounds. As a result, they will be completely liberated from the lower realms, and will not turn back from attaining perfectly complete enlightenment. In a Vajra-like manner, they will rely upon the 6 perfections with great strength and determination, and will soon manifestly and completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfectly complete enlightenment. If he does not directly appear in front of them, the beginner bodhisattvas should rise before dawn and pray to Aruna, uttering these words: Aruna, Aruna, endowed with great compassion. Aruna, as soon as you have risen in this world, enfold me in your compassion. Convey these words of mine to Akasagarbha, the one of great compassion. Please show yourself in my dreams, so that I may disclose my root transgressions. Lead me to obtain the great eyes of wisdom endowed with the skillful means of the noble Mahayana. Then they should go back to bed to sleep. Here too the Bodhisattva Akasagarbha will appear at the break of dawn in the dreams of those beginner bodhisattvas who have committed a transgression, and with great skillful means of primordial wisdom he will lead them to disclose their root transgressions. He also teaches primordial wisdom endowed with skillful means. This enables the beginner bodhisattvas to obtain the meditative concentration called not forgetting the mind of enlightenment at that very moment. They will firmly abide in the Mahayana and swiftly come to complete the 6 perfections. Furthermore, beginner bodhisattvas may say to some people, "You are not able to engage in the practice of the 6 perfections. You are not able to manifestly and completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfectly complete enlightenment. Therefore, quickly turn your minds to either the Sravaka vehicle or the Pratyeka Buddha vehicle, and you will swiftly be definitively released from samsara." Speaking such words is the second root transgression for a beginner bodhisattva. Furthermore, beginner bodhisattvas may say to some, "Oh, what is the use of practicing the vijnana of the pratimoksha, ethical discipline and good conduct? You should swiftly bring forth the mind that strives for unsurpassable, perfectly complete enlightenment and study the Mahayana. Then even the tiniest unwholesome deeds you have committed with your body, speech, and mind, due to the afflictions, will be purified, and they will not come to maturation." Saying these words is the third root transgression for beginner bodhisattvas. Furthermore, son of noble family, beginner bodhisattvas may say to some, "Son of noble family, eschew the discourses of the Sravaka vehicle. Do not listen to them, do not read them, and do not teach them to others. Son of noble family, eschew the discourses of the Sravaka vehicle. They are the reason why you cannot obtain the great result, why you are not able to eradicate the afflictions. Therefore, have faith in the discourses of the Mahayana. Listen to the Mahayana, study the Mahayana, and teach it to others. Thus you will not go to the lower realms, you will not enter any path leading to the lower realms, and swiftly you will manifestly and completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfectly complete enlightenment." If these words are spoken and the listener acts accordingly and adopts a similar view, then both actions incur a root transgression. This is the fourth root transgression of beginner bodhisattvas. Furthermore, beginner bodhisattvas may be two-faced, thinking one thing but professing another. They may also propagate and versify the Mahayana teachings, and for the purpose of gain and honor they may chant those verses, recite, memorize, read, and explain them, and even teach others things that they have merely heard, saying, "I am a follower of the Mahayana." Others, however, are not. Because they seek gain and honor, they act jealously and become upset when others are appreciated and respected. Uttering their names, they disparage, abuse, and speak badly of them, praising themselves instead. Out of jealousy, they say, "I possess supreme qualities." This action constitutes a transgression and deprives them of the happiness of the Mahayana. It is therefore considered a very serious transgression that leads to rebirth in the lower realms. The analogy here is of a group of people who wish to go to a jewel island and set out to cross the great ocean by boat, but the boat breaks apart in the great ocean. In the same way, even though these beginner bodhisattvas wish to cross the great ocean of the Mahayana, they destroy their boat of faith and part from the vital force of wisdom when they lie out of jealousy. Therefore, beginner bodhisattvas incur a very weighty transgression when they lie out of jealousy. This is the fifth root of transgression for beginner bodhisattvas. Furthermore, son of noble family, in the future there will be beginner bodhisattvas, householders, or ordained, who will recite, and chant sutras that contain profound emptiness. These Mahayana sutras are the object of understanding of bodhisattvas who need only little effort, and who are greatly intelligent beings adorned with dharanis, tolerance, meditative concentration, and the grounds. Having recited them, they extensively teach these sutras to others. They say, I have understood these teachings with my own intelligence. I teach them to you in this way because I am compassionate. Therefore you must meditate on this profound dharma in order to directly perceive it, and you too will come to behold primordial wisdom just as I do now. Instead of stating, I have not actualized this most profound dharma, but teach it by merely reading it out, they promote themselves for the purpose of gain and honor. Therefore, in the eyes of a Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly complete Buddhas of the three times, Bodhisattva, Mahasattvas, and noble beings, they have become stained by faults. A heavy transgression has occurred. Having deceived gods and humans using the Mahayana, there will be no Sravaka vehicle of the Buddha for those bodhisattvas, much less the Mahayana, or the particular realizations which are the entry into the Mahayana, or unsurpassable, perfectly complete enlightenment. The analogy here is of someone who travels out into the great secluded wilderness where he suffers hunger, thirst, and exhaustion. He then approaches a tree intending to eat of the great fruit it bears. However, ignoring the tree with its fine aroma and delicious fruit, he climbs instead a poisonous tree bearing fruit devoid of taste, and eats its poisonous fruit. In doing so, he causes his own death. Such a beginner bodhisattva committing the sixth transgression is said to be like the person in this analogy. Therefore, if beginner bodhisattvas who have gained this hard-to-achieve human birth live with a spiritual friend and wish to enter the Mahayana, yet praise themselves and disparage others for the purpose of gain, honor, and fame, they incur a serious transgression. Because of this root transgression, all the wise ones will strongly criticize them, and they will go to the lower realms. No Kshatriya, Brahmin, Vaisya, or Sudra will rely upon such a person. Anyone who does rely on such a person is definitively unwise. This, again, is the sixth root transgression for beginner bodhisattvas. Furthermore, son of noble family, in the future Kshatriyas will have dishonorable advisors and ministers, dishonorable soldiers and physicians, rich and powerful fools who are proud of their expertise. Seeming to engage in many meritorious deeds of giving, they will become proud and haughty due to their giving. Out of arrogance and pride, they will cause division within the Kshatriyas, as well as separation between the monastics and the Kshatriyas. Backed by the Kshatriyas, they may even punish the monastics, robbing them by imposing fines. Thus, being wrong, those monastics will steal from whichever individual local sangha or place of worship they can, or even the sangha of the four directions, and give what they have robbed to pay their fine. And those dishonorable people in turn will offer this to the Kshatriyas. Both of these actions become root transgressions. This is the seventh root transgression. Furthermore, those dishonorable Kshatriyas, together with the monastics, commit the following fault. They declare pure dharma to be non-dharma, and refer to that which is non-dharma as dharma, thus abandoning the true dharma. They do not observe the precepts of the sutras and the Vinaya, nor do they observe the black teachings, nor the great teachings. Having abandoned their training in loving kindness, great compassion, and the perfection of wisdom, as well as their training in skillful means and the trainings taught in other sutras, they organize duties for the monastic community that are dissociated from such meritorious activities in order to harm the bhikshus. Because such duties have been organized, the bhikshus are harmed. They abandon the practices of calm abiding and special insight. Harmful intentions multiply on those meditators, as a result of which they cannot pacify their unpacified emotions. As these do not subside, these bhikshus then degenerate in terms of intention, ethical discipline, conduct, and view. Therefore, they become negligent and ever more negligent, and their ethical discipline degenerates. Even though they are not monastics, they pretend to be, and even though they do not lead a chaste life, they pretend to. They resemble donkeys, and they explain the Dharma most clearly. Once they have been greatly honored and venerated by the Kshatriyas and their retinues and have received their offerings, they criticize in front of the householders the other bhikshus who diligently practice relinquishment. And the Kshatriyas, together with their retinues, become angry at the bhikshus who diligently practice relinquishment and disparage them. If the support and material riches that were destined for the bhikshus who diligently practice relinquishment are offered to the bhikshus exerting themselves in recitation, at this point both actions become root transgressions. Why? Because the bhikshu meditators are holy, while those who only recite and advise others are not. The bhikshu meditators have become vessels for meditative concentration, dharanis, tolerance, and the grounds. They have become holy beings worthy of receiving offerings. They have become sacred vessels. They illuminate the world and show the way, liberating beings from the realm of karma and afflictions and placing them on the path leading beyond sorrow. Son of noble family, since they have no misgivings concerning such actions and fear no consequences, this is the 8th root transgression for beginner bodhisattvas. When beginner bodhisattvas commit these root transgressions, they forfeit all previously generated roots of virtue. They go to the lower realms, experience their transgression materially, and are deprived of all the happiness of gods and humans. They are bodhisattvas who have deceived themselves. Son of noble family, for the benefit of beginner bodhisattvas, the bodhisattva Akasagarbha is born and appears in the places where such bodhisattvas dwell. To some he teaches in the form of a monastic with the appropriate attire and conduct, displaying to others a variety of forms, from that of a Brahmin with the proper attire and conduct, to the semblance and conduct of an animal. For an extensive explanation of this, one should read the Sutra on the meditative concentration of valiant progress. Sarangama Samadhi Sutra. Akasagarbha teaches the Dharma in various places according to the specificities of various beings. He conveys the sutras, meditative concentration, tolerance, and bodhisattva grounds taught by the Omniscient One in a way that was previously unheard of and unprecedented. Consequently, beginner bodhisattvas ignorant of skillful means, who have incurred transgressions, are ashamed. Because of those transgressions they are very frightened and terrified. They disclose the transgressions, give them up, and reject them. If, upon hearing the name of Bodhisattva Akasagarbha, those beings wish to see him, and if, fearful of falling to the lower realms, they wish to disclose their root transgressions, pay homage to the Bodhisattva Akasagarbha, and call out his name, then, son of noble family, in accordance with their merit, he will stand before those sentient beings as an ordinary person, or in front of those beginner bodhisattvas in various forms, from that of a Brahmin to that of a girl, and make them disclose those transgressions just as they have occurred. He displays his profound skill and means and shows them how to engage in the unsurpassable Mahayana. On the various bodhisattva grounds, he establishes them in meditative concentration, dharanis, and tolerance by having them gradually practice the entire eightfold path. He frees them completely from their immense fear of the lower realms and establishes them on the state of not turning away from unsurpassable, perfectly complete enlightenment. As quick as a flash of lightning, they thereby become very strong and determined in the practice of the 6 perfections. In this way, they swiftly come to manifestly and completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfectly complete enlightenment. If he does not show himself to them directly, the beginner bodhisattvas who pray to him and who have erred in their ways should rise during the watch of dawn, stand facing the eastern direction, and pray to the god Aruna, uttering these words: Aruna, Aruna, endowed with great compassion, great fortunate one, as soon as you have risen in this world, enfold me in your compassion. Summon the Bodhisattva Akasagarbha, who is endowed with great compassion, with these my words: show yourself in my dreams, that I may disclose my transgressions. Lead me to obtain the skillful means and wisdom of the noble Mahayana. Having spoken these words, they should go back to sleep. Then, at the first light of dawn in this world, the Bodhisattva Akasagarbha will come and appear in the dreams of those beginner bodhisattvas in the guise of an ordinary person, and will make them disclose their root transgressions. With great primordial wisdom and skillful means, that expert in skillful means and primordial wisdom will bring these bodhisattvas, beginner bodhisattvas, to attain the meditative concentration called not forgetting bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, at that very moment. They will come to firmly abide by the Mahayana, to swiftly complete the 6 perfections, and before long, to manifestly and completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfectly complete enlightenment. Such skillful means and wisdom will he also teach them. Son of noble family, this is why the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Akasagarbha bears the precious wish-fulfilling jewel, which arises from great bravery, on his head, the holiest part of the body. The Bodhisattva Mahasattva Akasagarbha is endowed with inconceivable excellent qualities.